Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and we are back with another episode of the Underhive Wars. This is our series of weekly Necromunda battle reports, and this is battle report number 42 of our Necromunda Dominion campaign for our Sector 7 Turf War. This one's a hunt them down scenario that is fought between my two friends, Death as well as Brother Grimm. Brother Grimm is bringing the Pelago-Slam Kings of House Goliath, and Death is bringing the people leaders of the Helot Chaos Cultists. And it's kind of interesting because this scenario is actually kind of like a good old-fashioned grudge match between these two gangs. Brother Grimm as well as Death, their two gangs have actually fought against each other 3 times. This will be the 3rd time they fought against each other in the course of our campaign. So it'll be kind of interesting to see exactly how this one ends up going. This is a hunt them down scenario where the Goliaths of the Pelago-Slam Kings will try to escape the territory that is controlled by the people leaders of the Helot Chaos Cultists. And it's going to be really interesting to see exactly how these guys manage to make the escape. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to play some background music real quick. If you want to see exactly what the gangs are taking for this one, go ahead and pause and take a look at your own leisure. With that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
Alright, so the scenario rules for this one is called Hunt Them Down. For the crews, the defender in this scenario gets D3 plus 3 randomly chosen fighters, while the attacker gets the entire gang. In this scenario, my friend Brother Grimm of the Goliaths will be the defender, and my other friend Death will be the attacker in this scenario. For the deployment, the battlefield consists of a 2x3 tiled Zone Mortalis battlefield. This is known as Freedom Road, and the goal of the scenario is for the defenders to deploy on the farthest end of the battlefield called the Trailing Edge. The idea on the Freedom Road objective is that the defending gang is trying to escape through enemy territory by going from one side of the board to the other called the Leading Edge. In the end phase, if there's any defending fighter within 2 inches of the leading edge, 2 tiles from the trailing edge are removed, and then 2 more brand new tiles are added to the new leading edge, kind of make this rolling road type of thing. And the idea is supposed to be that the attacker gets a set of new tiles, and the defenders caught, and anybody defenders are caught in the last 2 trailing edge ones are considered out of action and take injury rolls because they're supposed to be like they got swarmed and they got taken over. So you have like this kind of like this always evolving battlefield as it shows your gang members trying to escape. At the same time, the attackers have the Relentless Hunters objective. At the beginning of the second round, the attacker randomly deploys D3 plus 3 fighters at the defender's trailing edge. At the start of each round after that, they place additional D3 additional fighters on the battlefield until the entire gang is deployed. And new fighters must either be placed on the defender's trailing edge or within 8 inches of another friendly fighter. The objective is for the defender to survive 9 rounds and try to make it to the very end. For experience, each fighter participates in the scenario earns 1 point of experience, as well as 1 point of experience for any attacker who takes out a defending player out of action. At the same time, 1 experience points for the defender who actually makes it to the end. For the reputation, the gang who wins this one match to earn plus D3 reputation points in total. And that pretty much makes the scenario rules for this one. Alright, so that takes directly to the battle plan on this one. So here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. As you can see, my friends are playing on a 2x3 table. Pretty much the trail edge on the far left-hand side, while the leading edge on the far right-hand side. As you can see, there's a lot of different things on this table that could be a hazard to the Goliaths on this one. You got a slag furnace, as well as a fan blade, as well as 2 corpse grinders that they really got to worry about and try to avoid and try to make it across the battlefield as quickly as they can. As for the battle plan, I'm not really sure what the battle plan is on this one. My 2 friends are playing this scenario, and I'm just taking the photos. But if I had to guess, it's that my buddy Brother Grimm is going to try to cross the field as quickly as he can and try to avoid getting bogged down by attackers. Try to go up into 6 and try to, take him down. And that's pretty much the battle plan I think it has on this one. So with the battle plan over with, let's go and talk about the deployment real quick. Alright, so here's the deployment for the Pelago-Slam Kings. As you can see in this photo, there's only 5 members of the gang that are actually going to participate in this scenario. And all 5 are right here on the trailing edge of the first round. So over here on the top, on the back left back there, that his name is Lord Wes is his name. Bottom left rather. Lord Wes is a ganger. He's armed with furnace plate. He's got a stub cannon, incendiary charge, as well as a brute cleaver. Right above on the top, that guy, his name is Gage. He's a ganger who's equipped with furnace plate. He's got a bolt gun with frag grenades and a stub gun with dum-dum rounds. Right in front of Gage is the gang leader Blitzkrieg Bob. He's got Furnace Plate as well as a grenade launcher armed with frag and crack grenades. He's also got the Brute Cleaver. He's also got the Commanding Presence and Overseer skill. And next to him on the bottom, that is Grizz, the gang champion. He's equipped with Furnace Plate, Heavy Stubber, and Stub Gun with Suspenser on his Heavy Stubber. He's also got Nerves of Steel as well as a head injury. And then right in front of him, that is Flesh Stick. He's a ganger equipped with Furnace Plate. He's got a Renderizer. He's got a Stub Gun with Dum-Dum bullets. He's also got Incendiary Charges as well as a Stim Slug Stash. And that pretty much makes up the entirety for the Pelago-Slam Kings on this one. And as for the people leaders, nobody deploys this round because the very first turn is entirely up to the Goliaths, and he doesn't really show up until the beginning of round 2. So that being said, let's go and get this battle report on a roll. So that takes directly to turn number 1 for the Goliaths, and the Goliaths are the only ones who are on this battlefield. And as you can see in this photo, the Goliaths have just spent the entire turn doing double movements, trying to move as quickly as they can across the battlefield. And this is a really bad scenario for the Goliaths to be paying in because the Goliaths have a really low movement value of only 4, and so because of that, they're not going to be able to move very quickly at all. So as you can see here, Flesh Stick as well as Blitzkrieg Bobs are the fastest movers. They actually move to the left here between the Slag Furnace as well as the Corpse Grinder right there in the middle of the battlefield. At the same time, Grizz as well as Gage as well as Lord Wez, they moved as quick as they can along the top of the screen there. And that pretty much ends turn number 1 for the Goliaths. So here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield at the end of turn number 1. As you can see, the Goliaths are trying to move as quickly as they can across the battlefield, making their way to the center of Freedom Road. So that being said, it takes directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Chaos Cultists. So before we get to the beginning of round number 2, of course, the Helot Cultists get to deploy their reinforcements. So over here in the bottom left-hand corner on the trailing edge of the battlefield, up front you have the Mangler. He's an Ombot who's equipped with Tunneling Claws, Grab Fist, Light Carapace Armor. He's got the Infiltrate, Cranial Governors, as well as Excavation Automata, as well as Valuable Skill. He's also got the Twisted Flesh injury on him as well. And then right next to him on the right-hand side are 2 other members of the Chaos Cultists. On the very back there, that is the Oculoid. He's a Cultist equipped with Flak Armor, Auto Gun, Auto Pistol. And right in front of him is Binbag, another Helot Cultist who's armed with Flak Armor, and Auto Gun, as well as an Auto Pistol. And at the top of the trailing edge, we have the last 2 members of the People Eaters are deploying for this round. On the top, that is Roar. He's a Cult Disciple, is equipped with Mesh Armor, Heavy Stubber. He's also got an Auto Pistol as well as a Drop Rig. He's got the Inherited Insanity skill, as well as the Infiltrate skill and Enfibling injury. And right next to him on the bottom there, that is Nerf number 2, is another Helot Cultist. He's equipped with Flak Armor. He's got a Grenade Launcher, Crack, and Frag Grenades. He's got a Maul, and he's also got the Twisted Flesh injury as well. And that pretty much makes the reinforcements showing up on this one. So with the reinforcements showing up, we go directly to the top of turn number 2, and both O'Death and Brother Grimm roll off for priority to see who goes first. Alright, so we go directly to the top of turn number 2, and the Helot Chaos Cultists get to go first. So my friend O'Death decides to activate Roar, who also does a group activation with Nerf number 2. And obviously both those guys actually spend a basic action to take aim at the weapons to give them +1 to hit, and they execute a second basic action to open fire directly at Grizz, as well as Lord Wez, as well as Gage, who are right across the battlefield from them on the top part of the Freedom Road. So for Roar, nothing much really happened. Managed to get a flesh wound off directly onto Lord Wez, but that was really about it. So Lord Wez is still playing face up. He's just pinned right now, and granted he's 1 toughness less than he usually is, but he can still fight and he can still kill. Nerf number 2 is, however, more successful, opened up with a frag grenade directly onto Gage, who also managed to catch Grizz in the blast as well. So because of that, both of them get shower with shrapnel from a frag grenade. But unfortunate for O'Death, though, Goliaths are toughness 4 as standard, so because that all it really does is pin them, it doesn't manage to win any of them at all. So while it is nice that all 3 guys are currently pinned, they lose a simple action to get back on their feet again. They can still shoot, they can still fight, they can still move, and they're still extremely deadly as well. So we go to the next activation for Brother Grimm, who decides to activate, Grizz, who also decides to do group activation real quick with Gage. First of all, Gage actually spends a simple action to get back on his feet again and does a simple action to move forward, moving 4 inches directly down the line for Freedom Road. At the same time, while that's occurring, Grizz does a special action to get back on his feet again, and of course he takes open fire with his Heavy Stubber. Since it has a suspenser on it, it only takes a basic action to open up on that, so he cuts loose, aiming directly for Roar, the cult champion across the way. He does manage to hit and wound Roar, but the only problem though is that Roar has 2 wounds because he is a cult disciple, so he just gets pinned right now, and he's also carrying a wound as well. Meanwhile, on the bottom of the battlefield, my friend O'Death decides to use Slaanesha's Favor. This cult has Slaanesha's Favor, which means that once per round they can activate 2 different fighters as a group activation because they have the Blessings of the Chaos Gods. So with that, he activates the Mangler as well as Binbag. So Mangler as well as Binbag, they both spend simple actions to move around the corners. That way they can aim directly at Flesh Stick as well as Blitzkrieg Bob, and they both decide to open fire directly onto him. The Mangler firing his Grab Fist while Binbag is opening up with his Auto Gun. So you can see in this photo, the Mangler managed to get a successful shot off with his grab fist directly right smack in the middle between Blitzkrieg Bob as well as Fleshstick as well. And in case you're unaware, what you have to do is take a strength test. If they fail a strength test, they take a wound. However, the problem though is that these guys are Goliaths, and Goliaths are strength 4 as a standard for most cases. So because of that, didn't really do much of anything. As you can see in this photo, both of them do get pinned from the grab fist, and they also suffer concussion, which means that they also have +2 to their initiative checks. They suffer a 2-up penalty for their initiative checks. Luckily for my friend Brother Grimm, though, he didn't realize this at the time until they had to take initiative checks, but he is dangerously close between the slag furnace on the left-hand side as well as the corpse grinder on the right-hand side as well. So because of that, he has to take initiative checks to see these guys actually fall in. Luckily for him, though, they don't fall in. They manage to stand their ground, but at the same time, though, it is kind of dangerous because now there's a gravity roll next to these guys that will affect their movement balances as well. So things not looking very good for Brother Grimm at this point. So for Brother Grimm's last activation, he activates Blitzkrieg Bob, who also does a group activation with Fleshstick. Both those fighters spend a simple action to get back on their feet again and spend a basic action to open fire with their weapons. Blitzkrieg Bob opens fires with his grenade launcher, firing a crack grenade directly at the Mangler. At the same time, Fleshstick lobs a incendiary charge right directly into the middle of both Binbag as well as the Mangler. And as you can see in this photo, there's a direct hit with both attacks. First of all, Blitzkrieg Bob managed to hit the Mangler straight smack dab in the middle. Managed to put 2 wounds on that guy as well. The only problem though is that the Mangler is packing 4 wounds as total. So because that he gets pinned, he also loses 2 wounds. At the same time, Fleshstick managed to lob his incendiary charge right between the two of them and managed to catch them both on fire. Managed to hit them both with the blast template from his incendiary charge as well. The only problem, of course, is that he fails to wound as well as to fail to catch these guys on fire, so both these guys are currently pinned after being shot out with a crack grenade launcher as well as having a Molotov cocktail thrown at them. So for my buddy O'Death, for his very last activation, he activates the Oculoid, who actually spends a simple action to move around the corner of the wall there and takes another basic action, open fire with his autogun directly into Fleshstick. But unfortunately for him, though, he doesn't cause any injuries, so because of that, nothing much really happens. His shot kind of goes wide, and that pretty much makes up O'Death's final activation for this one. And as for Brother Grimm's last activation, he decides to activate Lord Wes, who spends a simple action to get back on his feet again, another simple action to move forward 4 inches to catch up with Gage as they try to escape down the Freedom Road. And that pretty much ends turn number 2 for this one. So here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield at the end of turn number 2. As you can see, the Pelago-Slam Kings are slowly making their way across Freedom Road, heading now directly towards the center of the battlefield. At the same time, Blitzkrieg Bob as well as Fleshstick realize they're now in a precarious situation as they're stuck between both a slag furnace and a corpse grinder as they try to slowly make their way across the battlefield in order to try to escape. At the same time, the assault from both sides of the trailing edge for the people leaders is slowly collapsing, so it's kind of working out pretty well for the Pelago-Slam Kings, all things considered. So that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 3. And before we go any further, the Helot Chaos Cultists get some more reinforcements. In this case, O'Death only managed to get 1 fighter, and that fighter was ended up being Bloodraiser, the Cult Witch, who's equipped with flak armor. He's got a 2-handed axe as well as an auto pistol. He's got the Witch skill as well as the Inurgent Insanity special ability. He's also got the Dark Shield as well as the Scouring psychic abilities as well. And he just shows up there on the bottom of the screen about 12 inches away from the Mangler. And that pretty much makes up the reinforcements of this one. So with the reinforcements over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 3, and both O'Death and Brother Grimm roll off for initiative to see who has priority. And the very first person that O'Death decides to activate first is, of course, Bloodraiser. Bloodraiser actually spends a simple action to move forward up 4 inches, then he spends another basic action to manifest his psychic ability, firing off the Scouring directly onto both Fleshstick as well as Blitzkrieg Bob, which is a flaming attack that goes directly into him. It's only a strength 2 flaming attack, so that's the only good news on that part, because Goliaths have pretty high toughness. However, they do have to worry about getting caught on fire with the Blaze special ability. And unfortunately for Brother Grimm, that's exactly what ended up happening. Fleshstick managed to get caught on fire, so because of that, it's randomly determined that he moves 2d6 inches in a random direction. When the dice was rolled, he actually rolled a 5 to the left, so because of that, Fleshstick goes charged directly into the slag furnace and takes an injury roll because of it. Gets an out-of-action result, making it out-cold results. Because of that, he does go out of action, and the very first members of the Pelago-Slam Kings is burned. Now, luckily for Brother Grimm, though, Blitzkrieg Bob, his leader, just gets pinned right now, so he's laying face up right now because he got hit with the template, but he didn't catch on fire, and he's perfectly fine. And that pretty much makes up the very first action for the people leaders. And because my friend O'Death decided to use the Blessings of Slanesh in order to activate his second fighter, he decides to activate the Mangler, who spends a simple action to get back on his feet again, and a basic action to open fire with his grab fist directly into Blitzkrieg Bob. So the Mangler does manage to hit Blitzkrieg Bob with the Graviton Impulse, but nothing much really happens. He fails to win on that part as well, and plus Blitzkrieg Bob did pass his initiative check to make sure he doesn't fall into the Corpse Grinder or into the Slag Furnace, both from the Scouring as well as from the Grav Fist. He does suffer a concussion though, so because of that he does have +2 to his initiative, so that is not really good for him to go through as well. So for Brother Grimm's next activation, he decides to activate Grizz, his game champion, who also does a group activation with Lord Wes. For Grizz, he managed to get back on his feet again, open fire directly with his heavy stubber directly into Roar, as well as nerf number 2. Unfortunately, though, he missed both of his shots, so because of that, nothing much really happens for that most part. And Lord Wes does exactly the same thing, moving around the corner, open fire with his stub cannon. Unfortunately, though, his shots land wide, and nothing much really happens from there either. So for his next activation, Death decides to activate Roar, who does a group activation with the Nerf Herder as well. Both of them open fire with their grenade launcher, firing crack grenades as well as heavy stubber respectively. Unfortunately for Nerf number 2 though, he misses his shots and much really happens there. However, for Roar though, he does manage to hit Grizz, and manages to put a wound directly onto Grizz as well, so because that Grizz goes laying down face up, bleeding out, while he still has one more wound left on his characteristics. Meanwhile, Brother Grimm, for his next activation, decides to activate Blitzkrieg Bob, who does take aim with his grenade launcher, firing a crack grenade all the way across the battlefield to his closest target, which ends up being Bloodrazor, the Cult Witch. Not only does he manage to hit the Cult Witch, but he also managed to wound him as well, putting a serious injury as well as a flesh wound directly into the Cult Witch. So because of that, Bloodrazor goes crashing down, face down to the ground, and he is currently bleeding out with a flesh wound as well. Unfortunately for Brother Grimm, though, the people leaders had no problem passing their cool checks, so because of that, the Mangler pretty much just stands his ground at that point. And since most of his fighters are already done activating, he decides to activate both the Oculoid as well as Binbag. Both those guys move up forward than normal Noon Lounge and open fire with their auto guns directly into Blitzkrieg Bob. They do manage to hit Blitzkrieg Bob. For the most part, though, they're unable to cause any injuries. So because of that, Blitzkrieg Bob is still currently just pinned. And luckily for Brother Grimm, he does pass his initiative check, so he doesn't fall into the Corpse Grinder or falls into the Slag Furnace for the most part. And so for his final activation, Brother Grimm then activates Gage. Gage actually spends a normal moon allowance moving around the corner near that giant whirling fan there on the bottom of the ground, and now opens fire with his bolt gun directly into the Mangler. And not only does he manage to hit the Mangler, he also manages to cause a serious injury as well as a flesh wound on him as well. So because of that, the Mangler goes crashing down face down to the ground, and he's currently bleeding out with a flesh wound. Luckily for my friend O'Death, though, both Binbag as well as the Oculoid pass their cool checks, so they just kind of stand their ground for the most part. And that pretty much makes it to the end of this round. So here's an overhead shot at the end of turn number 3. As you can see, the Pelago-Slam Kings did suffer losing one of their fighters as well, and Grizz at the same time is currently being pinned and shot at the top of the screen. However, Gage as well as Lord Wes are slowly making their way out of the battlefield, and Blitzkrieg Bob is getting hit, but he's still surviving it. At the same time, 2 serious injury rolls were put directly onto the people leaders with Bloodrazor as well as the Mangler. During the end phase, they both still rolled the serious injury results. Because of that, they're both still laying on the ground, and they're still both bleeding out. And that pretty much makes up turn number 3 on this one. So with that being said, we go directly to the top at turn number 4. And once again, before the turn starts, the Helot Chaos Cultists manage to get another reinforcement. This time they get one additional fighter, and that fighter's name is Gazer. He is a cult Helot who is actually armed with flak armor and auto pistol and frag grenades. He's also got a maul, and he's also suffering from a head injury as well. And he just kind of shows up right smack dab in the middle of the battlefield, right next to Bloodrazor. So with the reinforcements over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 4. My friends roll off for priority to see who goes first. So with that, Brother Grimm decides to activate Grizz first. He managed to get the priority on this one, so because that Grizz gets back on his feet again, opens up directly with his heavy stubber across the battlefield into Roar as well as nerf number 2. Unfortunate for him though, he does manage to get off a shot, but he suffers an ammo roll check because of that, so he'll need to spend another simple action next turn order to clear his weapon and to reload it. He does manage to hit Roar, but unfortunately though, he fails to wound, so because that Roar is just currently pinned as he's laying on the ground face up for the most part. Alright, so with that we go directly to the people leaders in this one. I do have to apologize, this photo is taken after 2 activations, and I forgot to take care of both activations in my photograph, so I do apologize for that one. What ended up happening is that my friend O'Death decides to activate Beaker, which is the guy over there, Binbag, which is the guy over there on the left hand side. He opens up directly with his auto gun directly into, into Blitzkrieg Bob. Unfortunately, though, he missed his shot, so nothing much really happened from there, and Blitzkrieg Bob is perfectly fine. O'Death then activates Blitzkrieg Bob, who spends a simple action to get back on his feet again, and a basic action to open fire with his grenade launcher, lobbing a crack grenade directly into the Mangler and putting him out of action as a result of that. So because of that, the Mangler gets an out of action result, suffering a spinal injury, which means he has -1 to his strength now, which is pretty bad, and also chalking up a victory for the Pelago-Slam Kings on that one. Then after this photo, my friend O'Death then activates the Oculoid, who is the Chaos Cultist on the right hand side. He takes a basic action to aim with his auto gun and a second basic action to open fire directly back into Blitzkrieg Bob. He does manage to hit Blitzkrieg Bob and doesn't really cause much of anything, causing Blitzkrieg Bob to get pinned once again, but sadly he fails his initiative check, so because he fails that, he goes crashing directly into the slag furnace on the left hand side. As you can see, they're suffering a grievous injury result as a result of that, so because of that, Blitzkrieg Bob is now no longer part of the scenario, so because of that, he is completely gone at that point. And because O'Death decided to use the Blessings of Slaanesh ability when he decided to do this, he also gets to activate Gazzer, who then opens fire with his auto pistol directly into Lord Wes. And unfortunately for him, Lord Wes does get hit, if it doesn't get wounded, but he fails initiative check and goes crashing directly into the Corpse Grinder right there in the middle of the battlefield as well, suffering an out-of-act result on that one as well, suffering a grievous injury. So just like that, 2 members of the Pelago-Slam Kings are out of commission. For Brother Grimm's last activation, he does activate Gage, opens fire with his bolt gun directly into Gazzer. So because that Gazzer does suffer a grievous injury result on that one, going face down into the ground, and he also goes out of action as well. Lots of back and forth taking place in this round number 4 of the scenario. And with that, we go directly to the end phase. As you can see from the injury roll for this one, what's his name? Blood Razor. He is still seriously injured, and not much is really happening for him on that part. So here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield at the end of turn number 4. As you can see, the Pelago-Slam Kings are slowly losing their fighters. The only people they have left are both Grizz as well as for Gage, are the only 2 fighters left. And things are not looking very good for this group at the same time while that's occurring. At the same time, a couple of members of the people leaders have gone away, but only more are coming as the line goes on. So that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 5 on this one. And this time, Bloodwing ends up showing up for this one for the Helot Chaos Cultists. They only managed to get 1 member to show up on the battlefield, and that happens to be Bloodwing. He's a Helot Cultist who is equipped with flak armor, a long rifle, as well as a sword. So things are not looking very good right now for the Pelago-Slam Kings. So that takes us right to the top of turn number 5 on this one. The Helot Chaos Cultists get to go first. So O'Death decides to do a group activation real quick, activating Roar, who also has a group activation with Bloodwing, and both those guys open fire with their heavy stubber as long as long rifle directly into Grizz, respectively. Bloodwing's shot goes wide, however, Grizz though gets shot right directly in the head by the heavy stubber packing by Roar, who opens a fire on them directly. Managed to cause a wound as well as put an out-of-action result. Then when they rolled a d6 result on that one, ended with a roll of 66, a memorable death. And just like that, Grizz is now killed as his head gets blown off the top of his head, netting an additional experience point for Roar for taking out the gang champion for the Pelago-Slam Kings. And it's at this point that my friend Brother Grimm decides he's going to call the game at this point because he's lost way too many members of his gang and he really doesn't want to lose any more than he already has. So because of that, the Chaos Helot Cultists managed to win this one. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we go directly to the after action report because this battle report is now officially over.
That's it, man. It's game over, man. It's game over.
Alright, so with that we go directly to the post-game for the Pelago-Slam Kings. For injuries, 4 members of the gang were actually injured on this one. Blitzkrieg Bob and Lord West suffered grievous injuries, so because of that they go directly into recovery for a turn. Fleshdick got an out cold result, and Grizz, however, ended up being killed with a memorable death, so he is eliminated off the roster on that one. For advancements, no members of the Pelago-Slam Kings advances to the next level during this time. And from their territories, from their settlement, they did earn 1 point reputation as well as 20 credits. However, the last piece of terror that they had, which was the Promethean stash, they lost to the people leaders who managed to absorb it into their little outfit as well for their turf. From the trading post, they managed to score 20 credits from the settlement, and they decided to place all 20 credits directly into the stash. For the reputation, they earned 1 point of reputation, bringing their grand total 28 points of reputation in total. Their new record now is at 3 wins as well as 6 losses, and the new gang rating now is at 1,550 points. So with that, we go directly to the victors of this battle report, which are the people leaders. For the injuries, they had 2 members of the gang getting injured. First one was Gazzer, who suffered a grievous injury, so he goes directly into recovery, and the Mangler suffered a spinal injury, losing 1 to his strength and also going into recovery as well. From their advancements, King Slender leveled up to level 4, earning +1 to his ballistic skill. Roar, the gang cult disciple, he also leveled up to level 3 as well, earning +1 to his ballistic skill. And Blood Razor also leveled up to level 3, and the Witch learned the Warp Strength psychic power as well for his additional skill. From their territories, for the Dark Ritual, they decided to use Blood Razor as the sacrifice for their the focus of their Dark Ceremony. Managed to earn 2 points of experience for that one. Also gained the favor of Slaanesh once again, so that way they could also activate 2 fighters per round. From their territories, they earned from their settlement 1 point of reputation as well as 60 credits, and they also managed to capture a Promethean stash directly from the Pelago-Slam Kings, in which case they get 3 incendiary charges every battle report for their gang. From the trading post, they managed to earn 65 credits in total when combined from their stash as well as their territory. And with the 65 credits, they purchased a Suspensor for War for 60 credits, placing the 5 remaining credits back into their stash. From the reputation, they earned 1 point of reputation from their settlement as well as 3 points from the scenario, bringing their grand total to 23 points of reputation in total. Their new record now is at 4 wins and 4 losses, and their new gang rank now is at 2,715 points. So that's going to do it for this week, guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest, greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's going to do it for this one, you guys. We'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.